Now, before I tell you about what happened during the Magician's Nephew episode, which is episode 4, session 4, however you like to think of your tabletop game experience, I want to remind you, as sort of a trigger, that a lot of villains that appear as children are not children. So, as I describe it, it's going to sound creepy for a purpose, because everything I do has a purpose. But I just want you to bear in mind that's the trigger at the beginning of it is that this is made to be a little unsettling. I'm a big fan of things like body horror. And so, in terms of the Power Rangers, I tend to gravitate more towards Sentai versions of body horror. I tend to go a little more towards Sentai than toward Kamen Rider or toward an Ultraman type philosophy. Yeah, so I just wanted to preface that out there. So we had the episode 4, session 4 of Power Rangers Rise, which is the ttrpg part of my expanded universe of Power Rangerdom, and these are the Rangers that have just started forming. They're forming outside of Angel Grove in a little suburb city, um, excommunicated land called Saint Honore, which is this kind of previously working museum mining Wild West style town that was abandoned for some reason that they don't know. Um, so let's begin. The Magician's Nephew obviously is a reference to something, by the way. But let us begin. So we start with Ophelia, who is struggling to find some cell reception to connect with her talent manager. And remember, both the internet and cell phone Wi-Fi signals are sort of being co-opted by Mayor Bulkmeyer. And so actually getting connection to the outside world is physically very difficult with the car gone. But also, Mayor Bulkmeyer has made it so the surrounding area outside of Angel Grove can't really connect to Angel Grove for some reason. Um, Ophelia finds that the GPS coordinates as well for Saint Honore are very off. They attribute the GPS coordinates attribute to being in Area 52, which is on the other side of Angel Grove for one, and also not where Saint Honore is for two. Um, so she's trying to send this information again to try to give the correct information to her talent manager. And then she kind of turns around because she's doing that thing where when you're walking and pacing, you're kind of not in one linear thing. She realizes she is not alone. There is a small, faceless child, approximately 8 years old. They are well dressed and holding a red balloon, and they are facing her, um, most likely, because without a face, it's hard to tell where they're looking, but the body is turned toward her. Um, there is a head there, so it's kind of more of a mannequin, plastic, Rose episode of Doctor Who sort of thing. The faceless child holding balloon does not speak or move. Um, but when you are alone in the kind of shadow of this, what Benji describes as a haunted mine, in the place we're at, it's kind of prudent for Ophelia to book it back to the group's sleeping quarters as the others are rising for breakfast. While describing the odd occurrence, Mabe actually sees another one of the faceless children through the window outside the office. While they discuss creepy developments and they start to try to make a game plan, the trio of Rangers is jolted to attention by a car crash into a pillar outside the saloon. That leaves Lua's frontside total and Lua staring down the barrel of their own faceless child. Lua is a new character to the series. They did swerve to avoid hitting the faceless child, just seeing it as a child, and Benji moves to help Lua out of their vehicle from the passenger side. Uh, the car is totaled, which makes a total of two unavailable cars in order to get out of St. Honore. Lua ends up poking at the faceless child out of curiosity and gets splattered with blood. Not just from the red balloon, but from the whole being as the child disappears in like a pop. Kind of like when you take a tick off of a body part, I guess. One child becomes two as Lua joins the Rangers in their dormitory style, cafeteria style kitchen space, attempts to clean up and attempts to explain what they are looking for, what Lua is looking for. Because Lua is not just searching for answers to the nobody virus, but Lua also has a prior relationship to other Power Rangers who have disappeared and to Angel Grove itself, a city that Lua describes as locked away, thanks to Mayor Bulkmeyer. And the Rangers that Lua knows are the Power Rangers from the podcast from seasons 1 and 2, at least. Um, Mabe has been keeping watch kind of off and on as they start to get to know Lua a little better. Um, and what Mabe realizes is that the dapper child holding the red balloon, because another appears, they appear in a blink, and by the time the others have been called to see this kind of revelation of a new faceless child just kind of standing there creepily outside the building, there are four children now, and they are in a line and they face towards the mine. Um, the quartet decide to follow the children, but it is precarious because I gave them very, very big hitboxes, so they pop again, uh, spewing blood everywhere, even if they're brushed just by their skin. What's interesting is that one of the rangers, at least, I believe it was Mabe, discovers that their blood doesn't soak into the earth, but it creates mud that causes whoever is dredging it to be like slick. And it creates, after a couple of pops, a very unsafe terrain, which is going to be kind of important to this episode itself. So picture this, the horror movie implications of a line of every 20 or so feet, this line of faceless children holding red balloons, not blinking, potentially kind of breathing, just staring. Um, but the line of them doesn't go into the mine, it leads past the mine and back to the set of trailers where Ophelia had started the day. And there are now just more balloon wielding children. In fact, the number was 13. That's what the dice decided. And at the far end of the trailer space, because there's it's a McNugget shape. It looks kind of like a boot rather than a circle. But at the far end of the trailer space is a fallen billboard for the circus that was here before. And there is a dandy magician back there who also does not have a face, but does have a whip-like mustache. And upon seeing the Rangers, upon initiative being called, um, Lua gets wrapped up literally in the mustache as it ascends forth. Benji, in their unmorphed form, not sure if it's appropriate to morph in front of a stranger, uses their kung fu skills to undo the grappling of the what I'm calling the whip stash without harm. And Walua investigates the space and the magician and the children as a human. Ophelia and Mabe both decide to transform in order to confront the magician and to try to mitigate the issues presented by the potentially hazardous field of faceless children. Lua, who owns a piece of meteor glass that allows them to see certain things as a hagstone would, which is a nod to the podcast, finds there is an interconnective colored tissue in the space, and it winds around five colors: pink, red, blue, green, and yellow. So the lines are connected through the spaces where each box was found that contained the Spectrum spirit morphers that the Spirit Rangers of St. Honore now use. Benji, still not morphed, by the way, decides to get up close and personal with this faceless magician and realizes that he has a force field, um, but can also only just tell people about it because he becomes ensnared by a three-ring binding um, thing that the faceless magician have. Like when you have those rings that you pull apart and come together. Well, they're using one to now bind Benji, but Benji is not bound by mouth, so they can actually say, hey, this guy has a force field. Lua, in an attempt to free Benji in recompense for Benji freeing them earlier, is knocked into a child, and that's the second child they get knocked into. As it bursts, it creates a mud, and they're just on enough gradient that they end up knocking backwards, hurtling backwards through several children and into the generator, where there was a familiar military style box atop it. This time it had its yellow writing, This box was part of the generator. It was a box that Ophelia used earlier to restart the generator, and now it has literally fallen right onto Lua's head. Unfortunately, this does leave Lua a little dazed and unable to see much with all the kind of slippery, blood-like stuff going on. So she does take a breath to focus. But this causes Benji to realize the force field is gone from the magician, though not exactly why. What Benji doesn't know is that Lua inadvertently burst the child connected to the magician's personal force field, so they would have eventually gotten there, but it took less time because of a lucky roll. Ophelia takes advantage of this new kind of playing field to both help Benji and attack the magician at the same time, while Lua is able to complete her first morph. She is slightly shocked but accepts her new role as the Power Ranger, and her first action going to help rescue Benji and defeat the magician. She uses a multi-stabbing blow from her yellow spirit dagger. And the magician bursts as blood, just as the Faceless children did, but Benji finds, and then Lua picks up a very faded, potentially tarot or Klaus style, if you're a Cardcaptor Sakura fan, card the magician has left behind. This has created many questions still, and there's especially a lot about Lua's past that may inform the future. But for now, all of the Rangers need to get washed off because even though everything has burst, they are still covered in this very slick, goopy red blood. So there is a hose on the side of the saloon, and there again, in this town where no one has lived for a little bit, there's running water, hot and cold. There's food deliveries that come in for them that have been paid in advance. So even this space itself remains a mystery. And also, maybe a proactive plan to see once and for all what is in the obviously creepy mine. Now, session 5 is coming up, episode 5, and that episode is called Emperor. And so we'll see what happens next to the Spirit Rangers when Power Rangers rise. May the power protect you.